Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I want to chat with you guys a little bit about the point we've reached in the scientific literature regarding exercise and health and longevity and all these other things. When you start compiling all the data, it starts to become evident that strength training is the closest thing we have to a fountain of youth. Now, when I say strength training, different things are going to pop in people's head, and I'm not saying, myself as a powerlifter and strength athlete, I'm not saying that you need to become some enormously fat powerlifter. I'm not telling you when I say strength training that you have to build up to a 600 or a 700 pound deadlift. That's not what I'm implying. In fact, a lot of guys will say, so you're saying everyone should just get fat? Because sometimes when you bring up serious strength training, people assume that because they have this own bias towards powerlifters, and I'll say no, absolutely not. In fact, I would say that the data actually confirms that men who are above 20% body fat and women who are above 30% body fat are at very high risk of a lot of health issues, no matter what sort of lifestyle they live. Right? Even if you actually eat a healthy diet, as people would term it, and you train regularly, you're still likely to have health problems from that. So I'm not suggesting that at all. But what I am suggesting is that you don't have to be ultra lean to be in peak health either. And strength training will offset some, notice I said some, of the health risk of having a very high body fat. Obviously, it cannot negate them all. It just can't. Right? There's no way to ensure optimal health if you carry too much excessive body fat. And that's just a simple reality. And that's something we all just have to accept. The science shows that. It's not really in question, is it? But it doesn't mean a little bit of extra padding is automatically going to be an issue either. So people also get too obsessed the other direction with being too lean. And that isn't ideal for everyone either. But over to the point, strength training. And when I say strength training, I don't mean that you have to practice a 1 rep max deadlift and slap yourself and sniff ammonia and scream and yell and pull your all out max with a rounded back. That's not what I'm saying either. Strength training means that we train our muscles with progressive overload in most, if not all, the muscles in the body. Okay? Doesn't have to be a 1 rep max bench press or a 1 rep max squat. You know what? If you're doing sets of 10 on an incline bench, and I think even the guys chasing aesthetic are going to say, oh, yeah, that sounds good to me. Or, God forbid, 10 rep sets on a leg press. Wouldn't be my first choice, but a lot of the health benefits would still be there. Yeah, because it's still training the legs under a heavy resistance. If you were doing sets of 10 to 12 on those with progressive overload over time, we're still strength training. Why? Because we're training big movements. You're training most of the big muscles in the body, and you're doing so with progressive loading over an extended period of time, right? So in other words, if you took your incline bench 10 rep max from the empty bar up to, 155 pounds for sets of 10, you will have gained a lot of strength. You triple the weight you can do on that leg press or back squat. For your 8 rep or 10 rep or 12 rep max, you have strength trained, right? You've had progressive overload. Okay, so what do we know about this? Well, the evidence is starting to become overwhelming. This is the closest thing we have to a fountain of youth. And by the way, for those curious, I am 43 years old in these videos. I'm 43 years old. And I'm someone who has been completely medically disabled and bedbound a decade ago in my 30s. And I've had to come back and rebuild myself. And you know what? Pretty good health, all things considered. I mean, I deadlift over 600 pounds. I have good blood work. I'll take it. So, when we say the evidence, well, we're talking about things like cardiovascular disease, dementia, cancer, diabetes, all these things that destroy us later in life. They destroy our quality of life. Strength training reduces them. The newest meta-analysis looking at strength training found that resistance training is slightly better, right? Strength training is slightly better than doing cardio for your heart health. Does it mean cardio is not good for your heart health? No, the data says doing cardiovascular training is actually pretty good for your heart, right? It's actually pretty good. It's just that they found that strength training was slightly better if only one versus the other is done. Just a little bit better. Okay. Now, they also found that it's even a little bit better if you happen to do both. Right? You really kind of get a 1-2 punch if you do both. You know, not a bad idea. Osteoporosis, bone density, largely offset by resistance training. And for me, as a very serious lifter, when I had my bone density checked, again, it matched exactly what the research shows. My bone density was almost off the charts, and that was confirmed. I published that on my DEXA scans over a year ago. Right? I had denser bones than the average 20-year-old. Okay? As we age, our bones, we lose bone mineral density. That's what causes osteoporosis, causes osteoarthritis. That's what causes you to get shorter with age, by the way. It's your back losing bone density. It starts compressing. So you see the shorter old people with the hunched back. That's what's causing it. It's bone loss. It offsets that by decades, and in some cases, if you start early enough in life, it keeps it higher, often higher than a young person, well up into your older years. Okay. Jack LaLanne used to say that he credited the deadlift with his back health in his 90s. Right? Amazing fitness figure. Right? He did a lot for the fitness world. It wasn't always correct, but that guy was, the pinnacle of fitness. He did a lot to get people healthy and fit and lifting weights, didn't he? Right? Pretty big icon. And he made it to his 90s. One of the first TV fitness personalities. What else? Diabetes. People who strength train get diabetes at 70% of the rate of other people when other factors are weighed in. In other words, if you eat the same bad diet as someone else, you still have 70% less chance of getting diabetes. Now, it's not going to remove it completely if you eat bad, but a 70% reduction, that's pretty big. People who strength train at least twice a week get cancer at 50% of the general population when all other factors are normalized. Why? Same reason it reduces diabetes. It increases insulin sensitivity. In fact, we know that muscle mass is protective against cancer to some extent. Well, what's the fastest way to gain muscle? Lift weights. It's an even faster way to gain muscle. Lift a lot of weights, right? It isn't overly complicated. I think most of us grasp that. It's protective against cancer. The data shows that people who get cancer, who go through cancer treatment like chemotherapy, and if you guys recall Clint Darden, really good guy, great coach, great lifter. He trained all the way through his chemo. He is alive and well and kicking and competing again now, by the way. And the dude is ridiculously strong. But he trained even through his chemo. But people who are going through chemotherapy and other cancer treatments who continue to lift weights, they get that unlucky 50% who didn't get to stop it completely. They have double the survival rate. It's kind of like Ripto says, strong people are harder to kill. And that includes from cancer. Right? How about the fact that people who are stronger and lift weights don't even break as many bones when they get in a car crash, when they fall down? Back to that bone density thing. What about Alzheimer's? Dementia. It's been found that people with stronger legs in their 50s and 60s get dementia and Alzheimer's at a lower rate than other people. It comes back to the other point, strong body, strong mind. How much of that has to do again with circulating insulin control, right? People who lift weights don't get insulin resistance very easy, do we? Tend to have a high insulin sensitivity. All right, that can affect cognition. It can affect the way that we use different fatty acids. Those things we're starting to find that they are tied to brain function, particularly brain dysfunction in old age. So the data there is suggesting if you actually train your legs, so don't skip leg day, bro, that you have less chance of getting dementia and Alzheimer's when you're older. Okay? This is really, really a big deal. What do we think of as the things that ravage us at old age? Bone loss, diabetes, dementia, cancer, heart disease, Strokes, these are what we think of. This is the aging process. This is like what we all look and say, yeah, this is what's going to kill us as we get older. Strength training staves all of these things off longer. Okay? It's basically a fountain of youth. It's a fountain of youth. And more people need to be aware of this. I mean, this is mainstream science and medical data. This is mainstream. This isn't fringe. These are all independent studies and meta-analysis. Right? Get in and strength train. And anybody that you care about, talk to them about these things. Get them in and strength train. All right, guys. Well, that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.